Welcome to Ringside, the NCAR podcast. I'm your host, Pradeep Bagchi, and today's episode is about the Lok Sabha polls and how the Election Commission goes about it. 2024 is being called the year of elections. Globally, more voters than ever across 64 countries and the European Union, comprising nearly half of the world's population, have voted or will be voting. India is now in the midst of Lok Sabha polls, billed as the biggest democratic exercise in the world, with nearly 97 crore voters this time. Voting will be held in 7 phases for the 543 Lok Sabha in 1.2 million polling stations across the country. So, how does the Election Commission go about this massive exercise? To discuss this, we are happy to have with us former Chief Election Commissioner of India, Dr. S.Y. Quraishi. He was the 17th CEC during 2010 and 12. He brought in several electoral reforms like setting up an expenditure control division and voter education in the commission. This was to control money power and increase participation among voters. His latest book, India's Experiment with Democracy, The Life of a Nation Through Its Elections, has just been released. Dr. Quraishi, welcome to Ringside.
Thank you very much.
The first question, Lok Sabha elections are indeed a mammoth exercise. And more importantly, everything needs to go as per plan. No goof-ups are permissible. So how does the Election Commission prepare leading to the announcement of the days? What I mean is, what is normally the lead time?
As you rightly said, India's election is the biggest election in the world. And I would add that it is not only the biggest election, it is the biggest management event of any kind in the world. And we have been doing it for the last 75 years with the clockwork precision. And as you rightly said, we allow for zero error. And when I say zero error, it means zero error. And what I mean is that 99.9% good election, it will be a bad election for us. It has to be 100% without any question. Because even 0.1% bad election will mean thousands of people have been left out, they have been denied their voting rights, so there is no scope for any mistake. And 15 million, 1.5 crore government servants conduct this election and without error. So the beauty is that the same civil service, the same government servants who are normally looked down upon as inefficient and lazy and corrupt and what have you, you call them contemptuously babus, same bureaucracy delivers a perfect election every time. And now we have developed this art and science of conducting election and to perfection. And as a result, we are able to do it so efficiently every time. I often say that we are almost on autopilot. Our machinery is so well trained that there is no question of any mistake. There is no allowance for any mistake. And they are able to conduct this massive exercise with credibility and with clockwork efficiency.
The other thing that comes to my mind is, how does the EC arrive at certain figures like the number of polling stations, how many number of polling stations we will have, number of central forces, state-wise, number of booths, or whatever. I mean, how do you arrive at those figures?
First of all, we have to enlist the voters in the electoral roll. So that is the first exercise. And Election Commission every year updates the electoral roll by going door to door. We knock on every door and find out if there is any addition to the family who would like to be added as a voter, whether there has been any change in the sense that somebody has shifted, there has been a death in the family, so they have to be eliminated from the roll. So for updation of roll, we go to every house, door to door, every year. So that is how we get to know how many voters we have to deal with. As you rightly mentioned, 97 or 98 crore is the figure given for this year. Now, how many booths will we require for them? So that is the decision, again, with experience we have taken from time to time, that how much time it takes for one person to vote. Now, we have been using EVMs. So the time taken by one person to vote through EVM, and we have to see that how much time will be required for in a polling booth area They start at 8 a.m. and finish at 5 p.m. So how many people can actually vote? If we find at 5 p.m. There are still 200, 300 people waiting, that means the size of the polling booth has to be reduced. So initially it used to be 1,500 per polling booth. Then we reduced it to 1,200 per polling booth. And in some places where when the turnout used to be 60%, so we take that into account. But if the turnout is 80%, so that means many more people will have to come. So there we'll have to reduce the size of the polling station. So we have to see in short where the polling station should have the number of voters which can be accommodated till 5 p.m. We know how many people can be accommodated, so how many votes will be required. So sometimes there used to be one vote and the population has increased, turnout has increased, so we make two votes out of them. So the number of votes keeps on increasing. This time it is 10.5 lakh polling booths. It was less than 10 lakh last time, but in the last 5 years, the number has increased, so the number of votes has increased. Also classify all of our booths into three categories. One is the normal booth, which is peaceful, quiet, no problem booth. Then there are sensitive booths where there has been a history of violence or possibility of violence in the next election. Then there are hypersensitive booths where the chances of violence are much more than others based on our experience in history. And also, a normal booth can yesterday can become a sensitive booth today, depending on the character of the candidates. Suppose the candidate is a high profile candidate, the very top leader, so the booth certainly becomes sensitive, or it's a man with criminal background, with so many criminal cases pending, so it will become sensitive. So hypersensitive booths require more security. Based on this classification in three categories, hypersensitive and sensitive booths, we decide how much of security is required because we lay down a norm. Then we third thing we do is call the Home Secretary to negotiate with him how much paramilitary force can provide, because he has to see where the paramilitary forces are deployed, how many are available, and how many have to be withdrawn from deployment, and all that. So, on the basis, once he gives us X figure, so we see whether with that figure we can cover all the sensitive and hypersensitive boats. If we cannot, we circulate the force to second phase and the third phase and the fourth phase. So same phase is deployed again and again and again, and that is what determines the phases.
Dr. Quraishi, the EC has been campaigning for more people to participate in voting. But reports quoting data suggested that only 38% of the teens in the 18-19 age group have registered as voters. This also comes at a time when parties see youth as a big constituency. So, how do you see it? And what could be the possible reasons?
You have raised a very good question. In fact, when, I have some communication background. My PhD is in communication. So when I joined the Election Commission in 2006, and when I saw the figures of voter turnout, in many places it was to as low as 20%, 25%, particularly in metros and big cities, which is not acceptable to me. There are pockets where traditionally the turnout has been low. So I thought we need to address it. So I proposed that there are two ways of increasing the turnout. One is motivation and education. The other is compulsion, make it compulsory. So there used to be a demand. Everybody was expressing concern about low voter turnout among the politicians. But the solution which they were offering of compulsory voting was not acceptable to me, because I believed in the power of motivation and persuasion. So I proposed in the election commission that we should set up a voter education division. Now, election commission did not find the idea very attractive, because they said our job is to conduct elections, manage elections, and not to educate. Educating voters is somebody else's job, like of the media, of the political parties. But I did not agree with that at all. because, and I said that low voter turnout is surely a matter of election commission's concern, because that raises the question of legitimacy of the representative. Suppose only 20% people have voted and 10% have voted for Mr. Bakshi. So for us, you are a winner, but with 10%, question can be raised that 90% of the constituents have not voted for you. Are you a real representative of the constituency? But it is not your fault if 80% people did not come out to vote, if the turnout was low, right? Therefore, my solution was that we will set up a voter education division, have all kinds of wide range of educational programs, motivational programs, and bring out the people. And this was in 2010 October. My first election was Bihar election, and we tried it, and it worked wonders. Bihar recorded the highest turnout in history, and then that is the overall. Also, we targeted women and youth. The turnout of women was remarkable. More women turned out to vote than men, although the number of women, absolute number of women, is less than of men. As you know, the gender ratio is adverse. Today, more than half the states, 17 of all the states, have more women turn out than of men, which is a big achievement. Also, at that time, the gap between women coming to vote and men coming to vote, the gap was 10 percentage point, women coming out less. Now that gap has been wiped out. Second target of attention for us was the youth, particularly 18-year-old. First, we studied the problem. We did professional study through professional organization, knowledge, attitude, behavior, and practice study. So why is it that something of you're good, but you're not availing of it? Now, youngsters look forward to becoming 18 so that they get a driving license on which they will drive a motorcycle and drive it rashly at that, or watch adult movies. They were conscious of the 18-year importance of 18 years, but for the wrong reasons. The real reason, which is political empowerment, they were not concerned about, they were not bothered about. So we investigated that. Why is it that they are not bothered? So we found that many of them did not know that qualifying age to become a voter was 18. If they knew that, they did not know on what date you have to be 18, which is 1st of January. And if some of those who knew that, they did not know what is the procedure to enroll. And if they knew all that, many of them were cynical of politics and politicians. They used to say sab neta chor hai. All politicians are corrupt. So, which is a dangerous statement, which is a wrong statement, because in fact, India has become a great power thanks to political leadership only. Right. So therefore, these three the things we needed to address the vis-a-vis youth. So in our water education program with variety, we started operating in colleges, universities. We even involved school children. We appointed 25,000 brand ambassadors for universities. We involved national icons with our former Rashtrapati APJ Abdul Kalam, who was very popular with the youth. We got him to record a video of appeal to youth to register and come out and vote on the voting day and vote honestly. So this program has been such a tremendous success that in every election we are getting better and better results.
Related to this, since we are talking about turnout, the other thing is there are two categories of people, especially migrants across the country. And so for migrants, like for example, the EC has something called the Form M or something which is called for the migrants from the Kashmir Valley, and said they get to vote from wherever they are. So how about something like that for because thousands of migrants they go out and their voter I card or their voter registration is at their native places and they don't get to vote because on the voting day they may not be there. They may be somewhere else outside their state or whatever. And the second is urban population and urban centers, particularly. You see a lot of professionals are there who do not have their own homes and they live in rented accommodation. And so don't get that incentive to get a voter I card. They think that, okay, today we are here, 3 years down the line, I'll be posted somewhere else. So, this is one area again. How do you think it can be made convenient and possible for them to vote?
Well, let me first deal with the first part, Form M that you talked about. That was only applicable to Kashmiri migrants. And I read in the paper only today that it has been done away with because earlier they could vote from anywhere. Now they have, now that they are settled somewhere, they have to register there. But that was a local specific problem. So let's forget about it for the moment. Now, talking of migrants in general all over the country, that is a serious issue. But at the same time, there seems to be a lot of ignorance. The law is that wherever you are resident for more than 6 months, normally resident for more than 6 months, you have to register yourself as a voter. Obviously, even a student who comes for a year or 2 years or 3 years, that is the period you will come for. So you can register wherever you are enrolled. And earlier, the procedure was difficult that you had to get yourself struck off from your old place. Somebody had come from Trivandrum to Delhi asking him or her to go and get your name deleted. That was very difficult. That was cumbersome. And many people would therefore keep away from all this. So we made it easy. It was about 15 years ago that over time we made it simple that you just in your new place you fill up form 6, which is for a new voter, and mention your old address and old elector roll number so that we will get it struck off ourselves. So you can't make it simpler than that. Therefore, similarly for the migrant, the fact that though they don't have to go back to their hometown to vote because that voting facility is now available to them where they are currently resident for more than 6 months. So, and then you say the educated people rent in a rented place, that doesn't matter. All you have to prove that you are a citizen of India and some witness in the neighborhood has to certify, yes, I know this guy and he sleeps under this tree or on the outside this shop every night. So even that is good enough for us to give him a voter ID card.
But talking about technology, like today we talk about digital India and all that. I remember a long time back we read a book by Macpherson on democracy, where he talked about digital democracy. Like for example, do you see a situation in future where people can actually they will not need to go to a polling station and vote, but sitting at home they can log on to their computer and maybe some OTP based whatever they can login based procedure by which they can cast their vote. Has this idea been ever explored by the EC?
Oh, it has been discussed hundreds of times in EC and ruled out for the simple reason that even a simple EVM, which is a standalone machine, which does not take instruction from outside, the telephone in your pocket and mine is more dangerous because it is communicating with the whole world. It is getting instructions from all over the world. Even the fact that our EVM is an innocent standalone machine, even that is still questioned after 20 years of its introduction. So, in a situation when even simple technology, most trusted technology, which cannot be manipulated, if that is questioned, how will people accept internet voting? Some people demand, but for every person who demands internet voting, there will be 99% be suspicious of it. So we are not looking at introduction of internet voting in the near future. For sure, someday it might happen. How many every other day we see news how people are getting defrauded. That's why at the moment technology for remote voting is not yet ripe or acceptable when they don't even trust the simple EVM.
Yeah, Dr. Quraishi, since you talked about EVM, actually, I was coming to that because it's also linked to the digital thing. And questions are being raised in about EVMs in some quarters. And so they are also argue that even countries like the US and UK do not use EVMs. And in fact, there's a petition in the Supreme Court which is asking for 100% match with VVPATs, the paper trail. So then there's the other side of the argument that as a machine, even if it can be hacked, but the EC drill is such that it cannot go undetected. Before polling, it will be caught, number one. And number two, since it is on such a massive scale, hacking cannot be done. So how do you see this controversy about EV?
No, actually, the controversy about EVM, I'm shocked to see is so ill-informed. For instance, I've heard it hundreds of times. Even USA doesn't use EVM. So why do we use it? This statement that even USA doesn't use is wrong. because USA is different from India. It is totally decentralized. We have a single central federal election commission of India. In USA, election is conducted by counties at the local level, and there are over 10,000. So there are 10,000 systems, 10,000 laws. And in those 10,000 counties, thousands of them use EVMs of some kind or the other, and thousands of them do not use any EVM. To say that even USA doesn't use is wrong statement, because thousands are using. So that's wrong.
As I mentioned earlier, that you had that expenditure control division to check money power in elections. And today the EC has a cap of spending like 95 lakh for Lok Sabha constituency, except some states like maybe like Arunachal and Sikkim, that and Goa. But still, we all know that money plays a role. What else do you think can be done? I mean, to check the role of money.
Well, it is true. Number one, let us be clear that the law prescribes that there should be a limit on expenditure, and the intention of the law is that there should be a level playing field. Even the poorer people who are not so well off, should be able to contest, so that it is not a level playing field only among the rich, which is why the concept of a ceiling on expenditure is provided for in the law. Now, second misconception is that the Election Commission of India decide that ceiling, which is wrong. It is decided by the government through the law ministry. Of course, the Election Commission may make a recommendation which they may accept or not accept, but on that basis, the ceiling is fixed. Third is that 95 lakhs is too low, and it should be rationalized. Till today, I have not found the answer what is the rational limit, because there are people who say 95 is too much, and there are people who say 95 is too little. So, who decides what is rational? And in fact, interestingly, there is another interesting figure, that how to arrive at the rational figure. Now, if 95 is the limit, after the election, all candidates and winners, losers, they will have to submit their count of expenditure. And on average, the entire lot will show only 40 lakhs or 50 lakhs as their total expenditure. They do not, although 95 is the limit, but they're showing only 50 lakhs as their expenditure. So now if there is demand for rationalization, I will not raise it from 95 to 2 crores. I will bring it down from 95 to 40 lakhs, because that is what you are showing. In fact, Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee once had made a very significant statement that the figure given for half the expenditure is all bogus. So, therefore, in such a situation, there need to be a serious debate, and expenditure has to be brought down. And personally, one suggestion which I make is that the logic for having a ceiling on the expenditure provided by a law is very solid and very genuine. Now, at the same time, there is no limit on expenditure by political parties. You can spend 95 lakhs, but your party can spend on 5 crores and 10 crores on you. So, what happens to this concept of ceiling? It disturbs the level playing field altogether. It is totally negated. Therefore, there should be a ceiling on political party expenditure also. That has been our suggestion for a long time.
And another thing, since we're talking about the level playing field and the model code of conduct, which actually tries to ensure that the level playing field is there, and it becomes a subject of intense discussion many times. But how do you think, for example, the advent of social media, it has changed the scenario? Because today, even if you say that the campaign goes on and goes on till the time of voting, in the sense through social media. So, and there is a talk of some voluntary code of ethics for social media. But do you think it can work, or how do you think it has completely changed the way campaign is done these days?
Yeah, well, you have raised a very, very important question, because so with social media explosion, the ground reality has changed drastically. As you know, we have been doing a multi-phase election for the last 25, 30 years. And the only reason why we do it in multiple phases is the need for security, which every political party demands. every party says that bring a paramilitary force from outside their state. Now, at the same time, because the 7 phases, forces take 5 6 days to move from one phase to the other. Secondly, social media spread hate speech, fake news, rumors. So it is doing lot more damage than the benefit. In any case, we have made election peaceful by 100 other ways. Even if we stop deploying paramilitary force, we can still conduct peaceful election. So many things which I can detail out if there was time. But I would say it is better now in the new given circumstances that instead of 2.5 months for the election process to be over, let us finish the election in 1 month in one phase. Because then the hate speech, the social media, which we cannot really control. So in multiple phase election, social media plays havoc. So if it is a single phase, that havoc of social media will be limited enormously. And I think time has come when we should do the election in one day and be done with it.
Thank you, Dr. Quraishi, for your insights. It was great talking to you about India's election process.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you very much.
With that, we come to the end of this episode. Please stay tuned for more from the NCR podcast Ringside.